Thanks. Hi, friends. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're glad you're here. This is our session on answering and writing the UC personal insight questions. I am your co-host today. I'm Ethan, the college essay guy, and I'm joined by my longtime colleague and friend, Hanah Lim. Hanah, what would you like to say to the people?
I am so excited to be here. I am born and raised in California. I've worked with so many students on this process, and yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to start.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. I'll let you take it away, actually, and set context for this whole deal, and then you can pass the mic back to me when it's time.
Yes, yes. Hi, everyone. So, something that you'll find out about me is that I used to be a high school English teacher. And so, I love when I'm able to engage with students. No one likes when people are just talking at them. So, you're not going to be asked to unmute, or I don't even think you can in webinar, but I would love for you to join our Pear Deck here. So, a Pear Deck is an engagement platform where you can get signed in. You can click on the links today, and I'm going to actually share my screen so that you can kind of see what this is. And if you sign into the Pear Deck, not only can you engage and click on the links, you are going to be sent a PDF of the slides today. So please log on. We have about 208 people in the room and 23, 24, 25 people connected. So I would love to see that number going up. The link is in the chat, or you could go to joinpd.com and put in this unique code here. If you're watching the recording, please don't come here because it's just for those people who are live right now. If for whatever reason you get logged off, go to joinpd.com and the code will be on the upper right-hand corner. Okay. And so since the sound seems low, I don't
We're
know.
good. I think we're good. Maybe try turning up the volume on your computer. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, let's get started. It's going to be in the chat, and I know you're going to be seeing your Zoom window and your Pear Deck. You could just focus on the Pear Deck. I know there's going to be so many things, the chat and everything. Just have it all organized, and you'll be fine. Okay. So today we're going to go into how to answer and write the UC personal insight questions, and it's going to ask you for your email. Just log in with Gmail. That'll work great. If for whatever reason you can't get into Pear Deck, that's fine. You can also just engage in the chat and it'll still work out great. Okay. So I am the director of workshops at College Essay Guy, and Ethan and I have known each other for a long time. And like I mentioned, I'm a former high school English teacher, and I'm happy to be here because I also had the opportunity to read for one of the UCs. And so, yeah, I'm excited to bring in my input and insights. How about you, Ethan?
I am happy to be here because I've spent a lot of time helping students work on the UCs. I wrote a 150-page guide on this that I'll tell you about later. And yeah, just super happy to give you all some guidance on how to get started on these.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, everyone. So this is one of your engagement slides. So what you're going to do is you are going to move the blue dot. So we have 121 people in the Pear Deck, which is great. So if you are, let's say, if you haven't started yet, go ahead and put the blue dot in the red. If you have started and you're still not like completely finished and you're not feeling that confident, just go in the middle. If you've like finished all of them and you feel really good, you're just here to kind of check to see if you're on the right track, go ahead and put your dot in the green. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and vote. And I'm going to lock the screens in 3, 2, and 1. I'm going to show the responses here in the Zoom window. Let's take a look at the Zoom window. So we have a lot of people in the red. Maybe it's, a lot of people maybe haven't started. And I'm so glad you're here because that's why we're here to help you with that. And so a bunch of people in the middle, which is totally normal as well. Awesome. Okay. Do you want to go over the goals for today?
Sure. Yeah. Part of it is we want to just give you a sense of how this is different from the personal statement because it really is. We'll start there. We're going to talk a little bit about AI just briefly. We're going to talk about, well, you can read this. We're going to talk about what the UCs look for, how to find your topic. We're going to actually brainstorm some topics. We're going to go over 2, maybe even 3 samples if we've got time. I'm going to share with you a really nice like technique for helping your PIQs stand out. And then I'll give you a little tiny PSA for a boot camp that I'm teaching on this. It's going to be like a half-day affair, which is cool. And we'll do Q&A. That's it.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to get into the differences between the UCs and the Common App. So yes, there are 2 different prompts, and not prompts, applications. I think there was another question here. Actually, yeah, I wish we would have gone over that one first, but it's okay. Let's go over this. So there are 8 prompts. You pick four. It's a 350 word limit. But for the UCs, they want you to just answer the question. When they're doing trainings and things, they'll even say, like, imagine if one of the admissions officers asked you the question, like, what is your greatest talent or skill? How would you respond, like in an interview? You don't want a long hook and things like that. For the Common App, 7 prompts, you just pick one. We typically say just pick topic of your choice. And yeah, you have a little bit more room to be more creative there. But something that we really want to talk about as well is about AI use. And because of all the essays and things, I feel like maybe because it's a bit more straightforward, it might be tempting to use AI for the PIQs. And by the way, the UCs hate when people say essays, but because we're college essay guy, we're going to say essay sometimes. Just letting you know about that. So overall, there are risks of using AI for a college essay, but we want to encourage you to not use it because you're going to miss out on a lot of things as you're in this process. And I wanted to show you what the UC app says directly about AI use, and they say that it is equivalent to academic dishonesty, and they do use plagiarism checks, and we don't know how they're going to evaluate for AI. So just to be safe, please don't use it to full on write your PIQs. Okay. All right, let's actually move into what the UCs are looking for. Okay. And so this is super duper duper important because I think a lot of times what students don't realize is that the UCs are looking for specific things, maybe that are even different than some of the more highly selective schools. There are 13 factors of comprehensive review. It used to be 14 factors, but SATs are not considered. Sometimes students will even try to sneak in their score, but overall, as a former reader, we were told to ignore them because there's no way to verify that it was even true. And so overall, these are the 13 factors. People will say, well, I know someone who got in because this, and this. Well, these are the things that are being evaluated. So as a reader, we do score for these different things. So when you're writing your PIQs, ideally they will hit one of these 13 factors of comprehensive review. If it does not, it might be considered a missed opportunity because there's nothing that it's going to help kind of score your application higher. Okay. But the thing that they don't include in the 13 factors of comprehensive review is what is on the UC website. Okay. And forgive me, Ethan, if I'm walking over what you're going to say.
Oh, you're good.
So they're the 13 points of comprehensive review, but there's also certain things that the UCs are looking for. They say they want well-rounded students. They want leaders from their school or in their communities. They want to know that they'll thrive at UC and contribute to their community. So they are looking for the 13 things, plus they want to see that the students are well-rounded, who are leaders, who are going to contribute and thrive. And so these are also things that are evaluated in your application. And that's why some of the PIQs, the PIQ prompts, are asking for these specific things. And Ethan will go over the prompts with you.
Yeah. So these prompts, and I want to actually like turn this into like a little interactive thing because I want y'all to like be able to brainstorm a little bit, some ideas, especially if you don't have ideas yet. So the first one here, I want you to think of this for a second. I want you to think about leadership, and I want you to think about leadership broadly. Like, what are the ways in your life that you lead? You know, it could be at home, it could be through a job that you have. It could be, you know, with your friends. It could be in the classroom. And yes, it could totally be something where you have a leadership role. So if you all are open to it, I'd love for you to share some ideas in the chat for, and then just put a little one beside it, like one leadership, like what is a potential topic? So it might be like one period, you know, Boy Scouts, or one taking care of my siblings, and just throw some of those into the chat. So yeah, it could be through sports, totally. And obviously you'll be specific about that, but it could be that you talk about a particular sport that's an example of your leadership experience. And then you talk later in the PIQ about how those skills that you've learned have manifested elsewhere in your life. A youth commission member for your city, great. Being a president of clubs, totally counts. Being an attorney at teen court, yes, awesome. So y'all are getting it. Speech and debate, totally. Okay, second prompt. And so we're going to just brainstorm some ideas here. And I want you to see what other students are thinking of because it's kind of a potluck where everybody gets smarter based on these. So a creative side. So now, what are some ways that you express your creativity? And again, I want you to think broadly. Okay, not just like, oh, but I don't paint, or I don't do music, but what are some ways that you're creative? So let me know in the chat, two dot, and then give me some ways that y'all are creative. You can think through activities that you do, poetry, beautiful. Solutions to daily problems. Love this. Some of you are checking everyone, and some of you are checking hosts and panelists. Just note that if everybody may not be seeing it if you're checking hosts and panelists. Sewing, great. Magic, playing poker, dance, awesome. Yeah. Google Sheets, fun. Yeah. Jazz vibraphone improvisation, yoga, interesting, cool. Okay, these are awesome. These could totally work. There are so many ways that we can be creative. And part of what the UCs are looking for is how has that creativity expressed in your life? Now, some students will choose to pick one way that they're creative, and some might choose multiple ways. So if you've got a couple different ways that you're creative, I could totally see you weaving in a few different ways. Number three, greatest talent or skill. Now, this one, I would say don't pick like volleyball for this, but I would pick like what is a skill or quality or like superpower that you've developed through the thing, like through the sport, that has manifested elsewhere in your life. So, for example, your greatest talent or skill might be, I don't know, thinking of interesting ways to solve problems. Or maybe your greatest talent or skill is like recognizing needs in your community. So, I wonder if y'all could think of some examples of what are some of your superpowers, as it were, your greatest talents or skills. Doesn't have to be academic related. Good question. Ooh, I love this. Ability to learn things quickly. This is a nice one. And you could totally share a few different ways that you're able to learn things quickly. Debating and constructive argumentation. Fun. That could totally work. Communicating with my peers. Nice. Taking an active listening role. Working with people of all ages. Yeah. What's nice about these is that each one of these could come up with different specific examples of you doing this in your life. Love this. Great. Let's move on to four. I know I'm kind of moving fast through these, but I want to kind of just get your brain going here. Number four, describe how you've taken advantage of a significant educational opportunity. Again, take this broadly. So much of what you've done, even some of these things that you've mentioned, are educational opportunities because they've kind of helped you on your way to college and learning college level things, or work to overcome an educational barrier. So let's throw some ideas in the chat. What are some significant educational opportunities you've had? It could be an internship you did or some, I don't know, independent research. Oh, here we go. Great. An AP research developed and created a physical board game for financial literacy. Amazing. Taking self-taught classes online. Another beautiful example of, an educational opportunity. And this can go pretty broadly. So some of the things that folks have mentioned in terms of educational opportunity, it could be that you pick something like theater and you go, well, that was a significant educational opportunity. And you tell us how it was true for you. We've got a summer camp, an online course that you took, shadowing a doctor in a specialist field. Great. Mentorship through the Department of Fish and Game in Alaska. Awesome. These are great. These are great, great. Okay. So the next topics, this topic may not be for everyone, but this is the most significant challenge you face and the steps you've taken to overcome this challenge. Now, these are challenges oftentimes that are personal, sometimes they're related to your family. And how has it impacted your academic achievement? So I would say this is less challenges like I got a bad grade or, I wasn't able to try out for a particular sport. It's more of challenges. It could be related to health or health of someone in your family. It could be that you've had significant family responsibilities in your home. So again, welcome in the chat. Ideas here. What are some challenges that have come with, that you've had in your life? Someone's mentioning identifying as first generation. Yeah, if that's true for you, like what are the specific effects of that? Like how has that led to challenges in your life? What are the specific things in your life that you could share? Language barrier. When I immigrated from Europe, a significant health issue that I faced a few years ago. Yep. The financial barrier, and then starting a business to overcome it. Yeah. All of these things could potentially work. Mother was sick, so I helped my younger brother out with schoolwork. Yep. Could totally work. Power outages from natural disasters. And these tend to work really well when you've got the challenge, what you did about it, and what you learned through the experience. So that's just a quick tip on how to structure those that particular PIQ. Again, when I'm saying PIQ, it's like a personal insight question. Number six, this is one of my favorites because it's so directly connected to one of the 13 points of comprehensive review. So share with me in the chat, what's an academic subject that inspires you? Maybe it's even connected to a particular thing that you want to major in. And this is your point. The point here, the goal here is to stand out among the other school students from your school that are applying. So what's an academic subject that you could write about that would show lots of different sides of you potentially and how ideally you've explored this outside the classroom as well. So really I'm asking like, what are you a nerd for? Neuroscience, love it, great. Applied mathematics, philosophy, great. Biomedical engineering, physics, law and how it's connected to everything we do in ways we don't even realize. Yes. Finance, econ, love it. These are great. And I'm going to show you an example of these in just a little bit. Number seven, what have you done to make your school or community a better place? And think of your community broadly, because it could be that this one is all about, how you've made your family or your local, really local, like your church community or your temple community a better place. So, what's a volunteering experience that you've had, or a way that you made your school or community? There we go. Eagle Project, great. Developing a news and media organization to promote local business, wonderful. Yes. Suggesting proposals for improving the school environment as a prefect. Great. Let's see. Creating field trips for the local community. Yep. Organizing CPR training events. Awesome. Y'all are getting this. And again, I'm going to share with you an example of this one in just a little bit. Number eight, beyond what's already been shared in your application, what do you believe makes you stand out as a strong candidate for admissions to the University of California? Now, this is one of the hardest ones that I hear again and again from admission readers and from students to write. And I think honestly, a lot of the stuff that you have in the other prompts could be considered for this one. But Hanah, will you jump back to the 13 points real quick?
Mhm.
If there's anything that y'all think makes you stand out as a strong candidate that you might like to include, maybe just throw some ideas. And we're going to call this one eight. What are some things that you think could make you stand out and connect to one of these points of comprehensive review that you're not sure where else in the application it would go? Anyone have ideas here? Okay, potentially being an athlete in a particular way. Having experienced three different educational systems. That's one. Now, I could see that one working for like the educational opportunity one, but I definitely think that it's something that helps you stand out. And here's the key. Can you connect it to one of the 13 points of comprehensive review? So, achievements in special projects, special talents, achievements and awards, I mean, I guess that would it could count as participation in an educational prep program, but not quite. So some of these things that you're putting, like humor, I just don't know if it would connect to one of the 13 points of comprehensive review. Um, Someone mentioned being a triplet. I just don't know if that would connect to one of the 13 points of comprehensive review. So any of the things that you're thinking of for this one, try to connect it back to one of these points if you can. Okay. And a lot of these things, like a passion project or leadership roles in church, I think could probably work for one of the other prompts. So just something to think about. All right. Thanks. We can go back to the next one. So one of my favorite places, and y'all are doing a great job already. This is sort of just like the summary of all of these, if you want to look at them later, is to think about your UC activities list. Now, in the chat, we'll share with you a guide to this, but I would say when you're creating your UC application, the first thing to do is to go ahead and create your UC activities list. These are going to be longish descriptions. You're going to have about 20 spaces for these. And it's going to be stuff that you won't have enough room to really get into the detail on. Like, let's say, for instance, just to grab one here, someone has, that they're into, let me just grab one of these. They self-taught classes online. You can probably do a short description of this, but you can really get into the details in your personal insight questions. So quick first big piece of advice is I want to encourage y'all to check out our guide, which I'll share in the chat right now, that'll allow you to basically go in and create your UC activities list. We've got a template and everything. And to answer your question, someone asked, do you need to use all 20 spaces? No, obviously, if you don't have 20 things, you don't have to. So that's that. Yeah, let's see, next slide.
Yeah.
Oh, this is like just sort of obvious, but even though your personal, well, this is personal statement, your personal insight questions, it should be, shows who
Mhm.
you are. Your activities list shows what you've done. And we're really trying to encourage you to emphasize leadership and responsibility in ways that you've had impact. And I'll share with you an exercise on doing that in a little bit. All right. Before I kick it back to Hanah, I'd love to have a few of you share, using this format that I've got on the screen right now, what are some different topics that you might use for your UCP IQs? So you can see this format right here where it says like for prompt one, I want to do like, or like look at the second one, robotics club. Two, that's creativity, drumming. Four, developing an app. Eight, gardening. So for whoever's interested, throw into the chat what are some like let's if you want to just group all the prompts that you've been putting in here and just choose through or three or four. And I can kind of give you a sense, some quick feedback on some of the topics that you're choosing.
And it's okay if you don't remember the numbers, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, you can just throw in four if you want to, if you don't remember the numbers. Good call. While y'all are doing this, a good question came in from Deborah. One student wants to write about overcoming terrible math instruction in middle school and how that set him back and how he overcame it. That could totally work for an educational barrier. Even though it's in middle school, I think that there were impacts in high school. And so I think talking about what those impacts were in high school is going to be important. The other option that I want to give y'all, though, there's also something called the additional comments section. There are actually two of these where you can give a little bit of information on that. So if any of you have certain things that you feel like, oh, I want to explain this extenuating circumstance, but I feel like I don't want to do it necessarily in my personal insight question, then you could just use the additional comments for that. Okay. Cooking could be creativity for number two. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Okay. Because I'm imagining that there's like that y'all are still processing. Oh, here we go. Here we go. We got a few coming in. Great. I just need to give you another minute. Okay. So leadership through scouts, awesome. Serving my community by putting together care bags for early stage ALS patients. That's great. 1 and 7, lovely. We've got leadership in my home, teaching my siblings, cooking and creativity for 2, statistics for 6, and then community service and church plant. Awesome. This is it. Y'all are already scoping out these four. And what I love about these is y'all are giving some nice variety here. So we've got, for instance, tutoring, creative writing, summer research, and studying philosophy. That sounds like some beautiful range. Great. Love this. Next slide, please. Cool. Back to you, Hannah.
All right, everyone. So we are going to be taking this time to analyze some PIQ examples, and these are real PIQs. And this was from one of the counselor conferences that the UCs put on, and they had counselors and people like me to evaluate some of these PIQs and have us evaluate if these were strong responses or missed opportunities. Okay. And so, what I want you to do is, I want you to read through this on your own. I'm not going to read it out loud. And I want you to, in the Pear Deck, you have an opportunity to score it as a strong response or a missed opportunity. Okay. And so read through it quickly because the readers, we read them very quickly, and then evaluate, is it a strong response or missed opportunity? Okay. Let's go ahead and read it to yourself. I have some people already responding. It is on full screen. I could try to zoom in a little bit more, but yeah.
The other thing you could do is if you can't see it, it's just if you log in through the Pear Deck link, which
Yeah,
will
it'll
post
be
it.
on your screen.
It'll be on your screen so you can zoom in there.
Yeah, the link's right there.
You got it. Yeah, these are great. Y'all are bringing some great topics, by the way. Side note, I'm loving what you're sharing. Yeah.
And yes, if you have any questions, please put it in the Q&A. It'll make it easier for us to respond to them. Already, we have about 49, 50 responses out of 170. Go ahead and vote. So you got to read it very quickly. All right, I'm going to lock the screens in 3, 2, and 1. Okay, we have about 82 people who are responding here. 83, 84. Okay, I'm gonna lock the screens. Take a look at your Zoom window here, and you'll see it's about 50-50. So 41 people said strong response, 44 people said missed opportunity. All right, so let's see what the UCs said. I know it's short, it's not even a full 350 words, but overall they said that it was a strong response. And the reason why is because, and the reason why they even use this example is that it's not like a characteristically like typical example of, president of a club or different things like that. They were very, and in the beginning, they actually do kind of like talk a little bit more about their mom and not really about themselves. But overall, they felt like this was a clear example. They answered the prompt right away, and they felt like this was good enough information to be able to score them for like the different level of leadership that they're exhibiting. Okay, so this is directly from the UC's mouth. All right, next one. This is for the academic subject. Go ahead and read it. And is it a strong response or missed opportunity? Some of you are reading faster than UC readers. You're already scoring. But I think some of you can also tell from the beginning what it might be. Okay. All right, I'm going to lock the screens in 3, 2, and 1. All right, let's take a look at the Zoom window here. We have 60 people saying missed opportunity, 14 saying strong response. And typically, if we had more time, I would say to put in the chat why you think that. But overall, they did think this was a missed opportunity. It's written well, but it's not what they're looking for. It takes forever to kind of see what they're trying to say. And I think by writing it this way, they were trying to show that English is their favorite subject. It doesn't really answer the prompt. It's way too many long descriptions, flowery language. And as a reader, I think I would have just gotten annoyed and stopped reading even. Yeah. So there's that. All right, this next one. This is yeah, and you're right. They didn't even talk about outside the classroom for sure. It looks like they kind of copied and pasted it from something else. Okay, go ahead and read this one. Their greatest accomplishment, greatest talent or skill, and then answer, please. All right. I'm going to lock the screen soon, so go ahead and vote for me, please. In 3, 2, and 1. All right, let's take a look at the responses here. 80 people said strong response, 11 said missed opportunity. All right. Let's take a look, you guys. Sometimes you learn more by making mistakes. Okay. Y'all, they actually thought it was a missed opportunity. Okay. And I actually also put missed opportunity and I got it right. And I was only in the 23%. Okay. The reason why I picked missed opportunity, it was because it does not hit one of the 13 points of comprehensive review. as a reader, if I'm reading the UC application, this PIQ will not help me score the student. It's just going to be a PIQ and it's not going to enhance the student's application at all. Okay. I thought it was written well. I thought it was creative. I thought it shows by looking at cinematic nature, that's how they analyze the world. But they felt like it was more to entertain than to inform. So please understand that when you're writing some of these, that it has to hit one of the 13 points or the leadership or the contribution to community. So some of the topics that people would say is like, well, how about like, let's say cooking, right? Cooking itself may not hit the 13 points of comprehensive review, but will the cooking show leadership? Will the cooking show contribution to community? Maybe it'll show something else. And so someone actually even asked in the chat earlier, are these 13 points created equal? I'm going to say right now, they're not created equal. There are certain ones that are weighed more than others. For example, GPA, honors courses, the rigor, quality of senior year program, those do weigh more, but you don't have control over that anymore, right? The parts that you have control over are the other things. And so you want to, as much as you can, try to hit some of these other ones. So special talent, like predicting movie endings, is not going to fit that one. Okay. If you have any questions about that, let me know. But yeah, and put it into the Q&A. And yes, more straightforward responses, please, because so many times I would get just annoyed with a long hook when it's like, just please answer the question so I could score this application. Okay.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I answered about 15 questions in the chat, but three that I think everybody should hear.
Yeah.
One, can we repeat activities in our personal insight questions? I would say on the whole, I would try not to do that. I would try to do different activities for different PIQs. So if you've got a lot to say about debate, try to squish it into one so that you can basically score points in another quote unquote category, mean use another PIQ. If you're definitely like, no, but it's definitely different. I'm definitely a leader in this way in debate, and I'm helping others in prompt seven and with your debate, I'm still going to be like, can you squish them together? Because I think you can probably do both in one and find another example of how you help others for prompt seven. But if you have to, okay, definitely focus so that it seems like totally different aspects of the activity, whatever it is. Is adding a hook a good idea for the PIQs? I wouldn't recommend it. I would be like super straightforward. Just get into it as quick as you can, like super direct. And I'll show you some examples here. And then should do this UC's value showing something quirky? And I would say no, like it's more about just give us the information. I know that sounds kind of basic, but these can still be somewhat creative in like small ways, and I'll show you what I mean here.
And you
So
also have to know that the volume of applications the UCs are reading compared to the other highly selective schools is completely different. That's why they're read so much faster, instead they just want to know the information.
yeah, and for those of you who are asking, like, is should I have an uncommon topic? It's okay to write about. If your your Eagle service project is the thing that you've got to write about, like write about that thing. Whatever you spent the most time doing, that's going to be the most time you've spent and in your world is like the most impressive thing. Write about that thing. Don't not write about like something you've spent a ton of time doing just because you feel like it's going to blend in. I'll give you some tips on how to stand out in just a little bit after I give you these examples. So check this one out. This is for a leadership one. It's about a student who worked at a restaurant. I'm going to read it through with you. And as I'm reading this through, I want you to answer in the chat, what are you learning about this student as we're going through this? Because this is a strong example. This is a student who has accepted all the UCs that he applied to. But it's straightforward. He says, since fifth grade, I've been my parents' right-hand man at Tao Tao restaurant in our hometown of Hermosillo, Mexico. Sometimes they needed me to be the cashier. Other times, a dishwasher or chef's assistant in the kitchen. And eventually, I was expected to interact with customers as the youngest waiter on staff. As I developed more in this role, I became leader of the waiters. Now, notice the verbs in this paragraph. I taught them how to properly attend to groups of unsatisfied customers and the fundamentals of customer service. Consequently, I acquired organizational habits and dialogued more fluently to resolve problems. I developed better strategies to speed up home delivery and in-restaurant service. Through this, I achieved not only a better rapport with my colleagues, but also more honest and enjoyable relations with my dad's employees. It implanted a strong work ethic in me that reminds me of the hardworking farmers of my past generations. So, pausing for 10 seconds, what do you learn about this student as you're hearing all this stuff? Yeah, flexibility, can learn quickly, facilitated positive change in the workplace. Yep, totally. Adaptability, hardworking, growth. Yeah, beautiful. Cool. Next slide, please. Up until now, I recognize that to achieve efficiency and productivity in the working environment between employees and the manager, it's required not only, oops,
Oops.
we'll refresh here. I love that it says, "Aw, snap." That's so
I
good.
know what?
Some other things that y'all are learning, I'm just going to read these out. Communicative, willing to improve. Yep, totally. Background and growth. Yeah, we are getting some information about his background. I love that. Especially that last part, right? Where he's like, this reminded me of farmers from my past generations. Yeah, totally. So just to go back, he says, up until now, I recognize to achieve efficiency and productivity in the working environment between employees and manager, it's required not only firmness and attention of a boss, but also the empathy and vision of a leader. And he's kind of like hinting that he has these qualities, right? These are the qualities I developed as my dad's assistant. Working through the many facets of a small business has taught me the key role of small groups in a system. And I applied this beyond the walls of the restaurant. In school, you'll see me managing and organizing one-on-one mediations with peer counselors, and at the same time, earning myself a leading position in my school's British English Olympics team. Thanks to the work ethic grown by years of labor and supervising others, you might think I'd like to become an entrepreneur, but in actuality, I picture myself as an engineer, as I believe both require the adaptability, perseverance, dedication, and strategy to succeed in their respective fields. So what I notice about this one, and we'll just stay on this slide for a second, is that it's super straightforward in a great way. He's giving the information that they're looking for, and he's giving a little bit of like, so what? Which is to say, so what does this mean to you? Why should we care? How does this connect to other parts of you? He's bringing in his connection to his family a little bit. He's also hinting at his future career, which you don't have to do, but it's kind of a nice thing. And he's ending on some values that he really wants the reader to get: adaptability, perseverance, dedication, and strategy to succeed. But again, it's super straightforward. Someone's asking, would you recommend adding a plot twist at the end of the essay that involves your future aspirations? Not necessarily. I mean, this is sort of that, but it doesn't need to be like, they're going to be reading so fast. You want it to be really direct and straightforward and clear. So value information over poetry. All right. Let's take a look at another example. Now, this one stands out because the student just did a whole bunch of stuff. So for those of you students who have like found that you just have so many activities, this one's for you. And you can use these PIQs as a way of sort of doing a little mini montage, connecting a lot of the experiences you've had. But the structure is pretty simple. So take a look. This is for the academic subject prompt. Think about an academic subject that inspires you. How have you furthered this inside or outside the classroom? So she writes, through books like Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl about his incarceration at Auschwitz, and documentaries like Enemies of the People about the Khmer Rouge, history has taught me that human empathy knows no borders. Now, I love this naming of the academic subject in the first sentence. So strong recommend for those of you who are writing this prompt, mention the subject. Don't make them hunt for it. Mention it in the first sentence if you can. Next paragraph. My favorite history nerd moments occur when I can explain a modern socio-political phenomenon. Whoop, geeky language. So when a student gives a little geeky language in there, I know they probably developed some, next level, knowledge of whatever their subject is. So she says, when I can explain a modern socio-political phenomenon by drawing connections to a historical event, like tying the gender pay gap to the Neolithic Revolution and linking recent voting patterns to centuries of de jure de facto racism. Now, if you think that she's signaling that she knows some stuff about some stuff, you are right. And I think that's okay. I think that the examples that you give, if they're, sort of higher level like this, I think it can grab the reader's attention in a really positive way and show intellectual curiosity and show that you're ready to come in day one and do, UCLA level work or whatever the school is that you're interested in. Look at the next sentence. For my IB extended essay, I'm writing about the Second Amendment, and I hope to elucidate the current gun control debate with research surrounding the legacy of the Glorious Revolution. So she is flexing her history knowledge here, which is great. Next paragraph. My passion for history led me to an internship. Now she's connecting to an activity at the Sejong Institute, a think tank specializing in Korean diplomacy. Now, notice the structure for this paragraph. She gives a little bit on what she did and a little bit on what she learned. So she says, while I translated Korean research publications on topics like denuclearizing North Korea and resolving the South China Sea disputes, so what? I drew heavily from what I learned of the region's past, coming to understand that international conflicts cannot be resolved in the absence of historical insight. So that structure, what did you do and what did you learn, is a really good, simple one that can help you stand out and be used multiple times in your essay. So check this out. Next paragraph, she does the same thing. This notion also applies to my participation in Model UN. What did you do? Exploring the ramifications of historical events. What did you learn? Has helped me to create more comprehensive solutions. Learning about the often controversial past actions of nations has prompted me to raise ethical questions. So she's doing it, just repeating that. Here's what I did. Here's what it taught me. For instance, and I don't need to read you all the details of this, but she gives an example here. And she says, in resolving these conflicts, she asks, how do we balance national sovereignty with the responsibility of former colonial powers to stabilize the region? Now, that's pretty heady. Let's go back one second. That's pretty heady, but one of the great ways to show your intelligence is to just ask a specific question, the kind of question that you might be asking in a college level course. Okay, so that's another quick tip for standing out. Ask big questions, weave them into your essay. It can be a great way to show, again, your intellectual curiosity. All right, here's the ending. She says, this summer I enrolled in this particular course and I studied this particular thing, and I learned that migration is as old as history itself. So if you notice, she's weaving in a different extracurricular activity or experience or something. She's connecting them all under history. And then she ends with, in college, I hope to continue drawing connections between history and contemporary geopolitics as a political science major. Eventually, I hope to become a civil rights attorney and the first Asian woman on the Supreme Court. Now, do you have to weave in your major? No, you don't. I know that two of these in a row have, but you totally do not have to do it. These are just students who happen to do it, and it made for a nice ending. Okay, let's go one more. And I'm going to kind of, just because I'm throwing a lot at y'all, I'm going to kind of give y'all the high level version of this one and talk to you basically about what's happening structurally and say that this is for the UC PIQ 7, which is like the community service one. And the way this one goes is the student starts off with a particular problem, a particular challenge that she was facing in her community. And in this case, there were these earthquakes. And she was like, this disaster is unprecedented, unpredictable, and we need to do something about it. It's a big deal because we're not ready for this. So that's how she sets up. So here's the thing that I did. And if you notice in the second paragraph, I've highlighted in bold some of these active verbs, which I'm going to explain more about in just a couple minutes. But the verbs really show how she's taken steps to help solve this challenge. The challenge of, hey, earthquake preparedness, we're not ready. So she talks about deciding to, go beyond her school club. She talks about learning about disaster preparedness and realizing, hey, we're just not ready for this. And then next paragraph, she says,
Oh, sorry.
it's okay.
Trying to answer questions too.
That's okay. During my training, I accompanied volunteers, installed an updated smoke alarm, started teaching this project in local elementary schools, leading workshops, instilling the importance of disaster preparedness. Also, she led the seminar, trained young adults. So notice like so many verbs showing all the amazing things that she's done, probably stuff that doesn't show up in her activities list descriptions. All right, next slide. Through my work with the Red Cross and in my interactions with survivors and rescuers who were assisted during Hurricane Katrina, here's what I've learned. I've come to discover how teaching even just small preparedness procedures to individuals can help save entire communities. The impact of disaster services, and this is like the so what, reverberates throughout our communities, both at home and internationally. It's a selfless, necessary job in which youth, as the future generation of an ever-changing disaster-prone world, must take urgent action. So like it's like a call to action, like here's what we can do about this. So I know I just gave a lot at y'all, gave a lot to y'all, but actually let me pause for a second before I even show you how they generated the content. But I'd love to just hear some reflections in the chat. What are you noticing as you reflect on what you've heard so far from these different students? Or what questions are popping up from you? You can throw them into the Q&A. Is it okay to write about your extracurriculars in depth for your PIQs? Totally. That's what these students are doing. And these were successful PIQs that help these students in their applications. Do you put a title? Nope, don't need to. For the 13 factors of comprehensive review, if you just Google 13 factors college essay guy, you'll see them. So in the chat, folks are noticing there's an authentic tone. There's cause and effect. Yeah, you're getting a sense of like, there was this happen, so I did this. A lot of them show future impact. Yep, it's super clear what the essays are about. Every sentence goes back to what it's about. Yeah, notice how direct and straightforward each of these are. They don't have a crazy opener. You're right. No crazy, like wild hook. It's just like super straight to the point. They're less flowery and captivating. Good. And these, again, these are all students who got into all the UCs they applied to. Now, it's not just because the PIQs, they also had awesome grades. Um, they wrote about things that mattered to them. And yes, they're tying it back to those 13 points of comprehensive review. Yeah, impact, problem, and how you solved it. Yep. And big goals. Yeah, someone's noting that they have lofty goals. Should your ECs align with your major? Is it okay not to? I mean, there's probably not a ton that you can do about that right now. If you're a freshman or sophomore watching this and you've got more time to do stuff related to your major, great. But you've got what you've got. So I would say trying to make connections between your extracurriculars and your major could be great. Let me give you some practical advice on how to connect this to your like how to basically create the content so you can write awesome PIQs as well. So on the next slide, you'll see this exercise that I really love. And this is sort of like the quote unquote secret of this. So we can click to the next slide. There we go. This is called the BEABIES exercise, the best extracurricular activity brainstorm I've ever seen. And essentially it involves answering these 5 questions. And this is how most of these students um, wrote their PIQs. Okay. So first, what did you do? Like literally in the day to day, what are the experiences you've had? And it's like those verbs, and you can make a big list of different responsibilities that you had. Second, what problems did you solve? Or if you didn't solve them, what problems did you tackle? And it could be challenges in your family or in your community or in your school or state level, national, global, etc. Next question to answer is what are the lessons that you learned? And we've got something called the values exercise. You can Google values exercise to find this. Okay. Next, what's the impact that you had? And can you use like specific numbers to support the impact that you had? Like if you started a fundraiser, how much money did you raise? If you had a club, like how many people did you have in the club? These kinds of things that really show, show like how many folks, the breadth of your impact. If you didn't have a huge wide impact, did you have a deep impact? Can you give me examples of like people who came up to you and said, "Wow, this was now I understand biology," or this really changed the way that I thought about this. You can use quotes sometimes. And then the fifth thing to consider is how did you apply the lessons that you learned from the activity in other areas of your life? So this wasn't just about, whatever it was, robotics or just about Girl Scouts. Here's how I took those lessons and applied them elsewhere. Okay, so those are 5 really good questions to consider answering. Next slide, please. This is what it looks like when it gets filled out, and I would say the more time you spend on this, the easier it's going to be to write your PIQs. All right, next slide.
And if you're on the Pear Deck, you could click on the link at the top and it's supposed to go there and it'll take you to the actual exercise.
Yeah, you just might have to
Down
scroll
here
down.
at the bottom. Anyway.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. One way to make your common topic, if you're worried that it feels kind of basic, you can make your common topic uncommon by basically just, thinking about what is the obvious thing that someone else is going to say. I'll take over screen sharing real quick, Hannah. So, something that might be obvious. It's like, I want to be a doctor because, and you say that you're empathetic and you love helping people and you really want to make the world a better place. Like, those might be kind of obvious things. If you kind of mentally cross those off in your mind, and you instead say, maybe your core values are like authenticity or social justice or collaboration. Those might be some interesting values that you could weave into your paragraphs and talk about how whatever experience that you had could help demonstrate that particular thing that you're interested in. And I believe, for example, art making can be a kind of medicine. Like that's going to be a little bit more uncommon. It might be a little more surprising for the reader. Okay. So that's just a simple thing. And the way to do that is basically just go to the values exercise, which you can just Google values exercise, college essay guy. And you basically look at the values list and you go, okay, what are like the basic things that someone would say about my topic? And you kind of mentally cross them off. Like compassion, probably going to be in the doctor essay. but interdependence, maybe not. And by the way, the UCs don't ask why do you want to be what you want to study, but it could be that you weave that into like an essay that's about your academic subject, for instance. So, curious to know what you're noticing, what questions are coming up for you. This is just like a little speed bump moment because we're getting ready to shift into Q&A in just a minute. I'm slowing down so you can actually think of the questions. And you can share them in the chat or you can share them in the Q&A. We'll use both here in a few minutes. It's probably easier if we see it if you put it in the Q&A. While you're writing questions or thinking of them, I want to invite y'all. This is like my 60-second PSA for this UC PIQ course. So I've got this PIQ one-day boot camp where you're going to get access to this tool that I wrote, which is really comprehensive, and I'll show you in just a second. And we're going to get really like deep diving into how you actually write these. So we've got two different times we're doing it. One is October 25th, so like in 2.5 weeks, and one is a month from now. But if you're interested in this and you sign up, you can get access right away. So you don't have to wait. And when you get like when you to get access, what you get access to, I'll just show you real quick, is this really comprehensive guide that walks you through how do you create your activities list, some of the how do you pick your topics, which we kind of did a fast version of today. It shows you how to create draft zero using some of my favorite exercises. And then for each of the personal insight questions, it walks you through a specific example. So I'll grab one of these. Greatest talent or skill. It walks you through like quick tips for the prompt. And then it gives you like specific PIQs. And then it does like an analysis of why it's a good PIQ. And then it shows you how to outline it using, in this case, the BEABIES exercise. For some of these, like the UC7, it'll give the example, like the earthquakes one that I mentioned, and then it'll show you an exercise that'll tell you like how to basically structure that type of PIQ. We cover in this how to revise your personal insight questions, how to write personal insight questions about challenges, how to make it more insightful. And then I have this like great personal insight question test, which is sort of like a checklist for, am I doing all the things that the UCs want me to do? So yeah, and again, you get that right away as soon as you sign up. Um, so the cool thing about this webinar is normally it's 197 bucks, but for if you're on this webinar, we're gonna give it away for 147. So there's a little code UCPIQ 147 at the checkout that's gonna be good through Friday if you're interested in that. So we'll put that link in the chat here if any of y'all are interested. I'd love to have you on the course.
And you could click the link in
Oh
the
yeah, the link in
slide
the slides as well. And if
and
you can't afford this, one of the things that we're really big on at CEG is access. And so we offer this course pay what you can. So when you look at the course link, if you just scroll down to the bottom, you'll see here. No, it says 197 because you have to enter the code, but we've got pay what you can spots. If you want to pay 10 bucks and join, if you're a low income student and you qualify for that, would super love to have you. Really, really. We've also, if you identify as low income and you'd like a little more help, we have an amazing program called the Match Sliders Scholars Program that offers 10 hours of free one-on-one support. And we'll put a link to that in the chat. Or you could scan it with your phone here. And it doesn't take long to sign up. We've got amazing counselors that we pair you with. And we also do one-on-one support if you're interested in that. And that's on like the whole application, not just the UCs. We help with the UCs, but I've got an amazing team of coaches that'll walk you through the process. And those are really thorough, in-depth sessions and more than 10 hours of support if you're interested in that. So we'll put that link in the chat as well. Q&A time. You can write them anywhere. You can write them in the Q&A. You can write them in the chat. I'll stop sharing my screen. And maybe we could just go back and forth, Hanah, with taking a couple questions at a time, or a question at a time. And yeah, go for it. Have you got one that's like close at hand?
yes, I'm trying to put in some of the links, but I will stop doing that. Yes, there are some great questions in here. Like for example, how long does a UC reader take on average to read the prompts? Multiple people asked this, and I'm just gonna say very, very, very fast. I read them between 2 to 4 minutes for the entire thing, because we need to read a lot of them very, very quickly. So, yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
very straightforward.
yeah, yeah, super straightforward.
Yeah.
Um, there's a thing that I'll say is like, or a thing that I've heard before is like treat it like an interview. And if someone asks you a question, like, what's an academic subject that you care about? Like, just answer the question. Just say it as though you would say it to somebody. You can record yourself on your phone. If you want, that's just a great way to get a first draft.
Mhm.
Oh, someone asked what do I mean by montage? A montage is just like a series of moments or events that you connect under a common theme. So, for example, you're writing about history, but you've got a bunch of different events. My internship and my, IB paper. These things would be like different scenes in your montage. And if you Google montage, you'll see what that is. But it's like a series of moments or events under a common theme. How do the live review sessions work? Yeah, so in the PIQ sessions, essentially, I'll sort of invite students onto the session. We'll do lots of brainstorming, and then I'll review live drafts. So I spend time in the boot camp, basically, especially towards the second half, reviewing topic ideas, reviewing drafts, and kind of going through. I'm not able to review everyone's draft, of course, because it's an open access course that a lot of folks will be on, but it's the reviews are a group. So I'm reviewing one that I feel like, or maybe I'll review, 5 or 10 that I feel like I'll draw lessons out for different students. Should we try to write PIQs about things other than our activities list to avoid sounding redundant? As long as they connect to I mean, it's hard. It's hard to, I think, find examples of things that connect to your 13 points of comprehensive review without using those as examples. So the redundancy comes if you're saying the same exact things that are in uh, your activities list. So that's why I love it when students write their activities list first, and then you're saying other stuff because I'm sure you've got more to say about your activities. What it really meant to you, why it was important in your personal insight questions. Let's see.
I want to answer this question about if you read them 3 to 5 minutes per application, how do you get their attention? I would say try not to sound like everybody else. Please don't use big words. That doesn't help. Um, and how do you sound like everyone else? You have to make it as personal as possible. And something I would tell students all the time is, could someone else put their name on top of your PIQ and it'd be true for them too? That makes it not very personal. And so yeah, just make, if you notice all of the samples that we showed, it's very unique to that student. Um, yeah, and be very straightforward, please. Mhm.
Can good PIQ answers make a non-high GPA student a stronger applicant? Yeah, but it's not going to be like, it's not going to be the difference maker probably. If, for example, you've got well, I would say look at the average scores, the average GPAs for the UC that you're thinking about, that you're interested in. And if it's like a point different, or like half a point difference, it's probably not going to be that huge. Really, those PIQs are helping to differentiate among students who already have really strong grades and that rigor that the UCs have come to expect.
Do you want to answer, are all PIQs created equal?
Yeah, I mean, technically, yes. And this is what the UCs say. They're like, we have no favorites. I have preferences based on what I've seen students write well about and what I've seen work. Leadership is a really great one, I think, to show. Community service is another great thing to show. So that's 7. And then the academic subject one connects right to those points of comprehensive review. So that's another favorite. So I like 1, 6, and 7. Those are some of my favorites. But the other ones are like great too. So if you've got an awesome creative one, that can show another side of you. You've got an achievement or a special project that you've done that's creative, that can totally work. Or was there anything you noticed about that, Hannah, in terms of like check boxes, for instance?
Yeah, the leadership and the contribution to community for sure. Um, I would say more than, let's say, creativity or special talent. But it's not like it's bad if you did those other ones. But I would
Yeah,
say, yes, they would say it's created equal, but others, in my opinion, you have an opportunity to show the level of depth of those things in the PIQs.
yeah.
Mhm.
How should PIQs be structured? Is it a narrative? Is it chronological? It could be. What I'm suggesting with this sort of montage approach. So if you noticed with the first one that we read, the student working in the restaurant, it was pretty like the structure was here's the thing. So like establishing the topic, here's what I did, and then here's what I learned. And then at the end, it was like connection to major. So I don't know if that's narrative or chronological. It's more like following the BBS exercise of like, here's some stuff I did, here's some stuff I learned, and here's, the impact that it had on me, or looking forward to the future. We'll spend we're at time, but we'll spend like another 2 minutes answering questions, and then we'll let y'all go. How do you feel about discussing race or culture in the current political climate? I think it's fine to do, and I've got a whole guide on this. I think the key is if you're discussing race and ethnic culture, connecting it to the specific points of comprehensive review is going to be really important because race can be used as a standalone factor, and that's true not just for the UCs but also other colleges and universities. So I've got a really thorough guide on this. That's if you Google race college essay guy, and you'll see a whole application of a student who wrote about race and ethnic culture and connected the different experiences that she'd had to specific qualities that she was bringing to the university. And it really helped her. It helped her, with her acceptance to a really selective university. So as long as you connect it to, again, the 13 points or something that you're bringing to the college. So whatever, this project that I did, which for me is connected to my race and ethnic heritage or culture, was meaningful to me because I was able to, and what were the things that you did? What were the things that you learned, et cetera. Does the boot camp help with the Common App? Not that boot camp. I'm leading a course right now that you'll find on our website if you're interested. And that one specifically is helping with the Common App. And that meets the third session of that one meets tomorrow, actually, if you're interested. Let's see, let's see. How would you recommend adjusting a Common App personal statement to fit a UC PIQ, or would you recommend that at all? I find it to be really hard to do, honestly, because usually that's a little bit more creative, a little bit more expansive, and you're talking about different things. I've seen it work for challenges-based PIQs, so or personal statements. When you're writing a personal statement that's about challenges you face, what you've done and what you've learned, that can usually be squished into 350 words. But I tend to not recommend that students take their personal statement and rewrite it for their PIQ because you're just kind of talking about four different separate sides of you. I have seen students write their personal statements in a way that incorporates four different sides. So they've taken paragraphs and expanded on them, but yeah, it's kind of hard to plan that ahead of time, and then you have to find something that connects all four of those things, which is possible, but I don't want to force everybody into that to fit that. Hannah, you take one more, and I'll take one more, and then we'll call it.
Okay. Hmm. Does the UC prefer well-rounded or spiky students? Which would you recommend making PIQs all tied to your major? Overall, well-rounded is fine. Would you recommend making them all tied to your major? No, definitely not. And someone said, should I mention my major in all my PIQs? And I said, please don't. Yes, no, you do not have to do that.
Yeah. Is there a recording available to help Common App personal statement also? I have so much available. If you go to YouTube and you type in college essay guy, personal statement, you'll find 100 videos on this. So I know that's kind of sounds overwhelming, but I would say like if you Google college essay guy personal statement guide, you'll see our free guide to the personal statement that'll walk you through the brainstorming stuff that you need, different examples, different structures, and that sort of thing. I mean, most of the resources, actually, well, like 90 something percent of them are all free. You'll find hundreds, 300 blogs, maybe more. But I would say check out the YouTube channel because there's some good walkthrough videos there on the personal statement and we'll send you the recording. I knew someone would ask here at the end. Hanah, thanks. Thanks for being on this and sharing your wisdom and knowledge. It's fun doing this with you. And thanks, friends. I appreciate y'all being here with us. We hope you have a beautiful evening, and we will see you on a future session. Much love. Bye.
Bye.